Why am I so passionate about this topic, resiliency? For the first time in our country's history, teen pregnancies are at an all-time low, and at the same time, rates of depression and attempted suicides are at an all-time high among our youth. The reality is that no matter how good people have it, every single one of us is going to face adversity or difficulty or a challenging circumstance. And the way in which we deal with that circumstance is directly based upon how strong we are in our personal resilience. My middle school and high school years were some of the most difficult and challenging years of my life. On the outset, I was one of those kids that you probably didn't pay much attention to. I never really got A's and B's, but I didn't get D's and F's. And I never really was the one that spoke up, and I never really had a problem with speaking out or getting in trouble, but I also wasn't the kid that sat all the way in the back of the room and you didn't have any idea they were there with my hood over top of my head. I was just in that middle ground where you wouldn't even give me a second thought. And yet at the same time, inside, I was broken and hurting and confused like nothing else. On the outside, my high school, being as large as it was in an unbelievably wealthy area. We were a blue ribbon school, so the education was top notch. At home, my mom worked in healthcare. My father was a detective and a police officer for the years before he became a detective. We went on 2 vacations a year. We never were hurting for money. We never had to deal with not having enough food in the refrigerator. And yet at the same time, again, things were not as they seemed on the outside. When I was 16 years old, I walked up on my father across the street from my home with his gun in his mouth, sobbing because of how stressful life and work and all the things that he dealt with and saw actually were. And so I had this contention that I realized as I'm beginning to think through and process life was that in this one sense, everyone's telling me that real life and happiness and a full life was going to be found when I got good grades and I went to a good college and I got a good job and I found a beautiful little house and we were able to take nice vacations, and that by accumulating those things and being able to do those things, that I would find the happiness that everyone really is longing for in life. And here I was looking someone dead in the face who had gotten all of those things. But yet at the same time, there was something so difficult going on behind the surface that they weren't able to even deal with the fact of facing another day. And so I myself even began at that point contemplating, what was my life going to look like? Is this even worth it? Is there really happiness and joy and peace to be found? I'll never forget that week I faced a very difficult decision, because the reality was I had no purpose. If purpose was finding happiness and joy, and the ways in which I was told it was found by the people that I should be seeking it after themselves were not happy after having it, then what's the point of even living another day? That week, something instrumental in my life happened, and it happened through my high school. We had a guest speaker come in. He was a recovering drug addict and alcoholic who basically threw away most of his life. But he was there that day speaking to us because he had found purpose. He had found life. And there was something new in him that he came to our school to encourage us and to share with us about. And there was something about that presentation. I can't even tell you the guy's name. I don't really even know what the full message was about. All I knew is that I had a reason for waking up the next morning, and those thoughts of suicide were not completely gone, but I realized I hadn't exhausted all of my options. And so I went out on a quest to find true contentment and happiness. And what I found was the result of what we now these days are calling resilience. The reality of the fact that true happiness is only something that is able to be found in our individual well-being and personhood. This guy, at a pivotal point in my life, encouraged me to go on this path or this journey of finding inward happiness and inward joy. And it's the same thing that I have spent the past number of years of my life growing in my own personal resilience and becoming equipped to now share that and help to educate and teach others to find themselves in the face of challenges and difficulties and adversities. Because the reality is that is where true life is found, is being able to be face to face with life and yet still remain whole as a person. These and many other circumstances in my life have equipped and prepared me to not only be able to come and share an encouraging message with your students, but I also have the proper certification to be able to come and teach resilience to your teachers as well as the parents of your students, to be able to help foster and create an atmosphere of resilience growth that will be able to last long after I leave. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. I look forward to speaking with you soon.